Talk about your top meta contenders entering into a room and just having an absolute rundown here. And yes, we do have a Trickstar Brave list for you guys as well. Don't make 30% of you guys have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button. Smash it so we can climb up the 100K ladder. Your Argentina regional or national breakdown here is actually very straightforward here. Sword Soul being the most dominating bad guy in the room. That's 50% of top cut representation for top 8. Like, my mind is blown here. We had 2 Despia, which actually isn't too bad of a conversion rate, but the most interesting things out of this event here were Trilyricalisk taking 1 top spot, which I'm not really surprised about that. And then we also had a Sky Striker taking 2nd place for this event, which is also none other than absolutely amazing. You know, oh my god, Mystic Mine running the competition again. Gosh darn it, you gotta blame those old control decks for making Yu-Gi-Oh! A whole lot worse. Not really, but I think this breakdown is something pretty interesting. And then we have the top 16 Trickstar list for you guys in a second. We're gonna pass it on over to Decklist now. First place list out of this event here is pretty straightforward for Sword Soul, actually winning the event, grinding out Sky Striker here. You do see that we have that little extra foolish burial down there, or the nice little card that gives you the ability to shuffle a target from the opponent's graveyard back into the deck. We also have, what is it, the spell shattering, or the anti-magical arrows, or whatever it's called, as well, giving you, I guess, protection. He has some interesting things. Just looking at this side deck, it's very tacked out. And like I said, seeing that this was the deck that grinded its way through the top cut competition here, you know, kind of closing the gap on a lot of players here, I think is pretty impressive. Also, you know, we're getting away with playing the 1 Synthana. We've heard some very interesting takes on that. We're also playing the 1 Sword Soul Monster Reborn in here, which I thought a lot of people kind of, you know, cut and not really cared about that all that much. But the fact that it is getting the chance to kind of show back up in here, you know, I'll clap for it. That's pretty cool. Next up over here is 2nd place, which is our Sky Striker list. 3 Mystic Mines gonna make players angry. First of all, I think having Mystic Mine present for a deck like this to kind of grind is whatever. I do see we are playing to Hark down here. Now remember, we're not doing the crazier DP package. We're not relying on, you know, your adventure package here. This list feels way more standardized for the, oh my god, I'm going to Hayate past my opponent. I also see we are playing Triple Rose in here, which is also not necessarily a bad thing. In terms of grinding competition and things like that, that's what you're going to be looking at here in terms of these Sky Striker decks. And unlike the last YCS here, you do see that we are playing more Dimensional Barrier in the side deck here. I feel like we're just not caring as much about being, I don't know, how do you say, the more troublesome deck in the room. We're just modifying here. Next up is Sword Soul. So Sword Soul made it all the way down to 3rd place here. Now, this list doesn't have anything too crazy, except for in the side deck down here, you're going to see that monster that has the ability to basically negate Mystic Mine. And you're like, oh my god, how can you negate? It basically has a continuous passive skill of, you know, interfering with field spells, which actually kind of lets this deck do its thing. It's actually kind of hilarious because now we're seeing more and more outs towards Mystic Mine. It's not necessarily, I guess, anything that I'm really all that impressed about, that we've kind of shifted back towards seeing more diversity and things like that, but I think it's actually kind of cool at the end of the day. Anti-spell fragrances for grinding. No Synthana in this list. Once again, I've said this before, like, Synthana is completely optional in terms of the deck builds. All right, you kind of pick your poison and decide which route you want to go down here, and this build clearly chose to not pursue that here. Next up here is another man, so many Sword Soul. Now this build is built to kind of handle a lot more of the oppressive stuff that we've previously seen here. Now, this build has the Synthana in it, which is fine. This build is packing in double Cosmic Cyclones, so you'll get the chance to rip apart fields. And we have the droplets in here. Now, this build is not playing Vessel. Instead, we've opted to play the Heavenly Dragon Cycle. Now, personally, I think Heavenly Dragon Cycle can accomplish what you need it to do, which is fine. Now, the side deck down here, we're packing in Trap Tricks into this bad boy, which is actually kind of nice, to be honest with you. Being able to pull for those dimensional barriers to kind of offset pressure the opponent, feels pretty good. I'll give it to them. All right. But in terms of that, once again, every Sword Soul list kind of looks the same at this point in time. But you know what? When you get your diversity and you can kind of shape things up here and see how things are going, all right, not too bad overall. I'll take it. All right. Next up here, 5th place Sword Soul. Okay, first of all, this is just ridiculous. How many Sword Souls can you pack in to one event? Well, this build wanted to actually play DD Crow. Can you see like how much diversity you have between these Sword Soul builds? You know, I haven't seen a lot of Chalice present in these builds, and I haven't seen a lot of Crows present in these builds up through the upticking here for that. You know, once again, we have Synthana completely optional here. Then we're on a 2-2 split here for the Heavenly Dragon Cycle versus Vassal. Once again, in terms of your deck building, you are seeing all of these different option trees be present for this. Side deck down here, we only have 2 D barriers, which is fine. And you also see here that we have triple cross-out Designator as well for an option tree to completely pull from as well. If anything, your diversity and things like that for this is overall not too bad. So, like I said, how many Sword Soul decks can you pack in? Well, they all pretty much ran the higher tables here. Next up here is our Despia list. Now, in terms of this Despia list, where'd the Foolish Burial at, though? This is one of the builds that I've not seen focusing on the shenanigans. Now, we are playing triple Brandon in red. That's actually something I haven't seen a lot of here. We are not playing Alba Lenitus. And I also see we are playing the instant fusion down here, so we can Millennium Eyes restrict our opponent in case they try to hand trap us. I have not seen that idea just yet. That's actually pretty cute. I really do like that. That opens up some interesting possibilities that you might want to consider. I mean, you're also on a 43 card deck, so you're still your biggest threat to playing this deck is a dimensional barrier being flipped, and you're like, oh no, shock face. What am I supposed to do? And the answer is you just cry. Like that's what it's like to play this deck. So overall, not too bad. Next up here is another Despia list. Now this is the exact opposite of what we just saw here. This build is packing in that Allure of Darkness Turbo Draw package that we want to see. On the previous list, you saw double Albion versus 1. Remember, your Albion package gives you deck thinning. All right, I actually think that it's pretty important to kind of understand the level of, you know, deck thinning and things that can be present in this. All right, so overall, your Despia decks still look pretty much the same. Once again, like, you decide on your package. Do I want to go down the path of exploring, you know, Allure Darknesses? I do like the idea of Eradicator Epidemic Virus down in the side deck. That's something that we kind of started to see shape up a little bit. Getting a free blowout on your opponent's spells and traps feels pretty good, all real things considered. So just more little option trees to really consider out here if you're very curious about what to do this format. And then next up here we have Tri-Lyricalist. Now, I've pretty much considered this deck dead at this point in time. But to see that, you know what, we got away with it, it's pretty interesting. We are actually back to playing the F-Zero shenanigans. Formerly, F-Zero kind of took the back seat after we saw the limit of the Big Exceed that really helped out this deck. Thank you, Recital. But after the limitation of that, we kind of saw the deck just kind of start cutting those. Well, it looks like this deck kind of went back in a time machine, is getting the chance to grind out here. The Sylvan Princess Sprite getting a little bit more value for this build is good. And you can see how tacked out your side deck is, so you can kind of grind out against more of those matchups that might be oppressive to you at the end of the day. I also like the 1 Nibiru, so in case you need to side in to the 3rd Nibiru, you have access to it. Overall, I do think that this gives a very interesting light on the little things that you can explore in terms of your format diversity. And, well, that wraps up your top 8. Top 16 here, we had this 15th place Adventurer package combined with the Trickstar stuff. Now, I've not seen a lot of Trickstar stuff, and the fact we're only playing 1 reincarnation in the main deck with the triple droll just makes me wonder, what are we doing? I understand, like, this deck's sole purpose is to still gridlock grind against the opponent, all right? It does a fantastic job at that. But at the end of the day, you just kind of got to ask yourself, you know, can this deck, you know, can the Sky Striker, Adventurer, Trickstar deck still do its job? I think it can. I think it's got to work a little bit harder in order to do it. But overall, overall, I think that this is definitely one of those more interesting decks that you can see players kind of smash through and have success with this format. So what do you guys think? Please leave a format or a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. And I'll see your beautiful faces back here later on the day, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.